Okay, so if you are ready as I am to write less and do more, then let's just dive right in and get started with jQuery Essential Training. Let's start by talking about what jQuery is. jQuery is a freely available, open source JavaScript library, and its purpose in life is essentially to simplify the task of creating modern web pages that are highly interactive and responsive, essentially full of all the Web 2.0 goodness that you see all over the internet today. It works across all the modern browsers, and one of the great things about jQuery is that it abstracts away a lot of the browser-specific features, which allows you to concentrate on the design and finished result that you're trying to achieve, rather than spending all your time trying to figure out how to achieve various effects and features within individual browsers. So jQuery focuses on doing a few things very well. For example, jQuery makes it really easy to get and manipulate page content. Now, normally you do this using the document object model, or the DOM. And if you're not familiar with the DOM, then lynda.com has a great title known as JavaScript Essential Training by Dory Smith, and you can go check that out to learn more about the DOM. jQuery makes that really simple. jQuery also makes it really simple to work with the modern browser event model. And again, this is a key part of building modern Web 2.0 applications. And finally, jQuery adds a pretty sophisticated effects library that you can use to achieve a lot of sophisticated transitions and effects that you see in modern websites today, things like image fades and animations of events and that kind of stuff. If you take a look at how most modern web development is done today, there are a couple of scenarios that seem to pop up over and over again, and they typically follow a couple of very common patterns. The first pattern is usually when the page loads in the browser, there's a bunch of setup that you have to do, and this is usually in response to the window load event, and jQuery provides a really efficient way of handling this. The second scenario that pops up a lot looks something like this. There's an event that happens in the browser. The user clicks on something, or they type a key, or they move the mouse over something, and that sets off a reaction, something along the lines of, you retrieve the content from the page, and then you do some kind of manipulation on it. Maybe you animate it somehow, and then you put the content back in the page. Now, this may not be followed exactly, but the pattern is essentially along these lines where the user does something, and in response to that event, you have to somehow get content and manipulate it. And jQuery makes these scenarios really, really easy. Some of the benefits of using jQuery are, first, jQuery leverages your existing knowledge of CSS. So if you're already familiar with CSS, and you'll see this throughout the course, you'll find yourself writing syntax that looks a lot like CSS code, which makes it really easy to pick up some of jQuery's best features. jQuery is also built from the ground up to work with sets of elements. And this is something that the document object model in JavaScript is not designed to do very well. jQuery makes it second nature. In fact, many times you won't even realize that you're writing code that just by default works across sets of elements. jQuery also allows you to perform multiple operations on a set of elements with just one line of code. And this is a very powerful feature known as statement chaining. You'll see this again and again throughout the course. It really simplifies the way that you work with JavaScript and elements in the page, and it's one of jQuery's best features, and we'll see that throughout the course. And as I mentioned before, jQuery hides away a lot of the various browser quirks, and this allows you to concentrate on your end result. So you don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to achieve each effect within each individual browser. You simply write to the jQuery interface, and jQuery handles all of the individual browser features behind the scenes. And finally, jQuery is really extensible. There are a lot of plugins available that perform all kinds of web development tasks. And in fact, it's pretty easy to learn how to write your own, but in many cases you won't have to. The jQuery website contains hundreds of plugins that have been written by other people that you can just freely download and use in your own pages. jQuery is currently compatible with modern versions of all the main browsers that are in use today. So you can use jQuery across Internet Explorer, Safari, Chrome, Firefox, and Opera. And you can see that it works with all the current versions, going back in some cases pretty far. So you can see jQuery works with IE 6 and later. But there are some known issues with some of the browsers, and I've listed those here in the table. So you can see which browsers work well with jQuery and which ones don't. But the main point here is that all of the main browsers that are in use today, this should cover the vast majority of all the browsers that your code is going to encounter. Okay, so now that we've seen what jQuery is, let's jump over to the jQuery site and take a look at some of the features and see how to download and install it.